What was involved in your research leading up to the making of the film?
Well, there's obviously, I think generally films come from one kind of central idea and theme, and for this festival, it's the 168 festival in LA, and basically you have 1 week to make a film, and so we had 1 week to make this film, and we were given a verse. It's a Christian festival based in the States, and you have to make a film based on a verse which they give you, although it's not an exclusively Christian festival. And so we took that verse, and within that verse we came up with this idea of a doctor and having to deal with a malaria epidemic. But it was came down to that core thing of one child dies every minute. He said, how do we explore that? It's something you can say so quickly and flip over it in a conversation, but what is the repercussions of that? What does that look like? And I think that's what for me, what is the driving force behind the film. And then carrying on with what Greg said, well, for myself, directing recently, I very much want to be in this place where what I make is not necessarily as important as how it's been made. And I thought, geez, this is like a silly concept. It probably doesn't make sense. And I was doing some reading, and actually Danny Boyle also prescribes to that. And basically, what we're hoping is that the emotions that you come across on screen, the ones when you cry, the ones when you laugh, are the ones on set when we were crying. And there were moments, the one when Greg described in the big conversation, when a baby just dies. On set it was quiet and there was no shouting, and people were crying. And so the hope is that the emotion that we created on set will come across on screen.
And one of the things that excited me the most is there was something about this film and the fact that it got all the nominations that it got in Los Angeles, is that the thing that excited me is that we have so many stories in South Africa to tell. Right here on our home ground, so many incredible stories right around us. And I thought it was very gutsy from, Shane and the Media Village team to take such a pertinent issue and actually do it justice in such a short space of time. And we're excited to see how people are going to respond that side. The nominations, as it stands, it's incredible, literally like every department, and we're excited to being in Los Angeles when it gets screened for the first time and seeing what the response is going to be.
I want to talk about the festival in just a second.
Cool.
But what was the most memorable, emotional moment on set for you?
For me, it was definitely, it was towards the end in the ward, where one of the children had just died, and it was a mother and baby. She was literally humming the tune of Tula Tula. It's a song that's well known throughout Africa, a lullaby literally. And you could hear a pin drop literally from that moment, and that is it. That was the culmination of the heart of the story. That this, as Shane mentioned, when a child dies, we often like to say someone died or whatever, and it's a very abstract thing. But to see that moment in flesh and blood, the reality of that was overwhelming. And, that's a moment on set I'll never forget. It's something, to be able to capture something so real is on the one hand, it's a scary thing. On the other hand, it's such an honor and privilege, because that's what we get to do. We get to tell stories that get to change hearts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shane, what was your most memorable?
I think there's a few memorable. We're working with such great actors that so many of the lines which come through in the film will hit me hard every time I watch it. Specifically the one when Greg and Tremana are having a conversation, and then they're speaking about that this epidemic is happening, but the pharmaceutical companies don't care because the people affected by this are too poor to buy shoes. Yeah. And for me, it was a line which we wrote on paper and we liked it on paper, but as soon as it was said, I was like, wow. So we had Anele. Anele was one of our actors, and we actually used his baby. And just the emotion which came through, the tubing on the face, and we're working with Media Village Productions, and the crew was just amazing. You could hear a pin drop on that set. Wow. And when the baby had its last breath and went to sleep, on set, and in our film we used that as a dying moment. It was just so real, and the emotion which is created, it just got to me. And I think that'll always be a time I remembered of just cast coming together, crew coming together, and everyone being very serious about the moment that we were in.
And that's the magic of filmmaking. That's what you really want to happen when all the elements come together to really bring a story to life from a technical perspective, from a performance perspective. It was incredible, and we hope to recreate that going forward in terms of stories. But that moment's something you'll never forget. It's priceless.